So we'll be moving on towards the next panel discussion, what men can learn from women in family businesses. For this, I would invite Mr. Rajiv Agarwal, Department Chair, Strategy and Innovation, SP Jain Institute and Management Research, Gautami Gavankar, CEO, Estate Planning and Trusteeship, Kotak Mahindra Trusteeship Services. A big round of applause for them, everyone.
Hi. Hope you guys can hear me well. All right. Welcome, Gautami. Welcome, Rajiv. Your choice of mics. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Great pleasure. I was going to talk about the Priwexus VFO. We'll just talk about this after this session. Really fortunate and privileged to be on a panel moderating Rajiv sir and Gautami together, and on a very interesting topic on women and their role in family business. And in fact, the theme is what men can also learn from women. Rajiv sir, you being a professor and you being from a family business, you've seen all sides of potentially what a family business goes through, and very large families of yours is what I very recently learned. So what in your experience, both academically as well as in practice, have you seen the kind of roles that women get involved in a family-owned business, and what are the issues and challenges that they face?
Okay, I think the first thing I need to make a disclosure that I'm not an expert on learning from women. I think I'm still learning. And as a father, husband, and a brother and a son, I think I play various roles in which my daughters take great pleasure in telling me I have a lot to learn. So I'm a perpetual learner, I must confess on that front. But I think coming back to family businesses, I think the role of the women traditionally, I mean, my thoughts, just to put my thoughts on the table, I think women are not getting still today their true position in family businesses, and there's a lot more to be done. A lot has been done, but there's still a lot more has to be done. So that's my position. But if you look at historically in the family businesses in India, women have traditionally played the role of a CEO, which stands for Chief Emotional Officer, as we say. And they have been the backbone holding the relationship together in families. They are they hold the fabric together of the which weaves the family and its various players together. It's the glue which bonds the family, and it's as we've seen in some cases in India historically, they are the ones who also come in and step in when brothers are fighting, and they bring some kind of sanity in the family. So that's the typical role that has been there. But I think there is a lot more that they can do. We need to bring them up in the forefront. They have great leadership skills, and I think that is just coming out as such, but still a long way to go, like I said. So.
All right. No, great for sharing that perspective. Gautami, you would like to add anything here?
Thank you for inviting me for this panel. In fact, Rajiv asked me, was this topic suggested by me? The answer is no. But if, as I want to ask the audience this question before I share some inputs on your question. Do y'all really think y'all can, y'all do, and y'all will learn from women? Oh, very good. I have a overwhelming response from the audience at least, and that's where we start. So thank you for giving that overwhelming response. I think I have worked with a lot of families right since 2005 when I came into this, section of succession planning. Way back then, creation of trust was also a questionable thing. Then we dovetailed into family business succession as time passed. And I think there's a lot of change which has happened in the past 2 decades, if I were to say. And Rajiv probably has also witnessed it, and he may agree on that as well. As he said that women are the chief emotional officers. I think that designation need not be given. I think that comes inherently as the EQ quotient which we see exist in women. If you look at, because it's a patriarchal society, we see a lot of discrimination being made as so far as the ownership of businesses go. And it has happened in the last several decades. Look at an example, if you look at the Ambani family, Kokilaben Ambani stood as a strong support to Mr. Ambani. You saw the daughters getting married very quickly into business houses, but were not involved in businesses. But you see now, both the daughter-in-laws, that is Mukesh Ambani's and Anil Ambani's wife, Tina, and Nita Ambani, are both involved in businesses. Then comes the next generation now. They are managing businesses. So you see the change, but if you saw it 30 years back, it did not exist. So I think there's a lot of change which is happening, and I think the change is more because of the professional qualifications, of the of the growth of Indian family businesses, where they kind of realize the importance of the daughter or the daughter-in-law or the wife in the business, and think of them as capable of running the businesses, not just kind of be involved as a I met with a family, a very large business family just recently, and the wife of the patriarch came from a very large business family as well, but she was coined as the daughter of the family. She's so and so girl, okay, but that lady did not have any interest or business ownerships in the family from where she came from. The family she got married into, again, she was not a owner of the wealth. She was only a beneficiary of the wealth in some manner because of the structures that we kind of devise nowadays. So I think it's changing, and it's important that we kind of, we as advisors, take care of some of these issues. We cannot dictate, or we cannot tell our clients what they should do, because ultimately it's the family wish, it's the client's wish. But to educate, to bring some of these things to their attention is extremely critical. Of course, it's the final wish is of the client. But at the end of the day, if advisors like ourselves do not bring out this distinction, whether we are men or women advising the client, it's important to kind of bring this point up, because the daughter of the family may be equally, well equipped to handle the business like the son of the family.
Sure. No, great perspective. And, while I think with education overall, I think that obvious discrimination is going again, but a covert discrimination or bias sort of still exists. So, EQ, while, I understand, and women naturally are gifted on that, but, Gautami, Rajiv, what kind of organizational skills should you think that, women need to have to be more assertive of, they have capability, they're going through the same education, they're leading the same life as their siblings. But what kind of skills do you think they need to sort of emulate to emerge as leaders in the family?
So I think, I ask tough questions, which get me kicked out of conferences like this one. Like I did mention, I asked a question at one time at a conference, and we had two industrialists fighting on the stage trying to answer the question. I think the first thing is to have a mindset change. We need to understand, like I think Gautami said, that we need to be ready as families to accept what is the role of women that we want in our families. And I think unless and until we don't understand that first, as external people, I think when I go into advise families, the first question I'm asking is, okay, what are the sacrosanct rules? There are patriarchs, societies, and organization structures over here. You have you also, I think in South, in the Shetty community, you have matriarchy also prevailing over there. And I can tell you the men are equally miserable in those societies and in those families. And so I think the first question is to understand what does it mean for us to be a family? What are the values? What are the culture? What is the environment that we are comfortable with? Yeah, it is true that in today's times, the boys and girls get equal shots at getting educated, and when they come back into India from a foreign education, they tend to want to copy the same culture that they have been exposed to in the US or UK or Singapore or wherever. And that is the first reason for change which happens in families. And I think unless and until the change doesn't come from within, it doesn't come from the top level of the family, what we find is that the family structure is being replicated in businesses also. And what I mean by that is that, I've worked I'm a Marwadi Urbania, and I've seen in businesses when I go in over there, the family structure, Babuji is the head of the family, ergo Babuji is the head of the business. It's a similar structure over there. And if the woman is not getting her due in the family, there is no hope that she will get recognition in the business, because the family themselves will not accept it. So that's the first thing that we need to bring out. That is the structure the same. The second thing is, I think on merit, we need to understand the family structure is different. It is socialism by nature. And when you come to business, it's capitalism. It's the merit. And, so your merit wins in family, it's by birth. And when you try to superimpose that in family businesses, all hell breaks loose, because you're trying to then, reconcile two completely diametrically opposite systems onto each other. And I think that's something which again plays out the role over there. Where I've seen businesses succeed is also the role, if I say, of sons, of accepting their sisters coming in and saying, hey, look, I'm an equal, not what I call as, paraya dhan, so therefore we don't want you getting involved in the business because you know what, you're going to go into another family. So your family of birth is different from family by marriage, and therefore we don't want you getting too involved in the family structure. Also, the question of asset transfers, that do you want, and I've seen a lot of families discuss very openly that we don't want to give ownership in the family businesses to the daughters because we believe that that should remain in the sons and therefore hence in the family. These, and I can give you a lot of examples, but these are again stemming from the fact that we need to have a mindset change within the family first before we can enable any kind of change, because if the family members don't accept it, then it becomes difficult to enable any kind of change that you want.
So I think that family member change is more societal at some level, and it will sort of then cultural, and then it sort of comes to a particular family. But and maybe Gautami, for you, right? My question was a little more specific, that what can women do themselves to assert, because of the similar education and all. So you can't change a family bias if it's there, but what can a woman do to sort of just, demonstrate that she's capable and she can handle what her male counterpart can?
Suraj, I'm going to fight.
Yeah.
Why does a woman have to justify or demonstrate that she is capable? Why does the men community?
I will rephrase that. We were blaming society and culture and a whole host of things which are non-controllable. So what is controllable from my
Rajiv
stand?
has given me an example that fights can happen in forums like this. I'm taking
Absolutely.
the opportunity.
I'm learning, madam. Please go ahead.
We are all learning from women.
So the point is simple. Two children of yours, if you have a son and a daughter, I don't know what your family is like, you will make them go to good schools, you will make them go to good colleges, people go to US for higher education, they get good degrees. If a woman is told that अब ये सीख लो 20 साल में शादी हो जाएगी, अभी तो कुछ और करना नहीं है, in a business situation, if it's not a family business situation, and if it's like a normal professional family who has two kids, both the kids will equally work, both the kids will equally earn, and there will be a society where a woman also will have her own standing because she's got into the best of jobs, like the son has got into the best of jobs. So we have to find a distinction between normal women running professional careers versus women in family businesses. I think there a big distinction comes up there. A woman can succeed in her professional life, but does that mean that she succeeds in her business environment, which is run by the family? I think there's a big distinction which gets drawn there. She may be extremely good qualified. I'm not going to quote names, but we've had situations where women are doing very good in their professional life, but they're still not accepted as decision makers in the business. Rajiv wants to kind of talk, so...
No, I'm listening, madam. Please go ahead. I'm learning.
So I think it's important to say, so what can women do? Okay, what should they go and do? They should go and tell their parents that we are capable, please accept us in the business. Aisa to nahi hai. They have to also demonstrate, they also have to show that we are on equal, if we consider ourselves on equal footings, then we have to be equally involved to show that we are interested in running the businesses, we are interested in taking up the position, we are wanting to go the hard way, and we are not just the, that category that will just want to get married and now stay in another family. So yes, you are right in a way asking that what should we demonstrate? We have to demonstrate the willingness, the passion to run the businesses. If the willingness, the passion and the determination is there, then I don't think the father is going to be able to discriminate that I will not treat my girl child or I will not give equal opportunity to my son and my daughter. I think that applies equally to men. If the determination, passion and the willingness is not there, then the entire 3-generation rule will apply whichever way it is, whether it's the man in the business or the woman in the business.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah.
So I think first, as an academic, I should make a pitch for studying in India also. It's not necessarily going to the US and abroad as such, but you get good quality education in India also. I think what's important over here, you've touched upon a couple of points, is I think the importance of communication is extremely important. And I'm going to add the question that was causing a controversy is that we treat our women differently. And what I mean by that is that our roles that we have for daughters, married daughters, unmarried daughters, and daughters-in-law. That's the question I asked, that what is the role of each one of them? And, if you have different answers, except the fact that we treat them all equally, then we know that there is something to be changed over there, which requires some rethinking to be done. And I think these are tough questions that we need to address as families. Coming back to that of communication, I think Gautami's raised a very important point that I think what women do, let's face it, let's be very clear about it. I come from an environment where I have 80% lady colleagues, I have ladies all around me, and I think competency wise, there is no difference whatsoever. I used to teach a batch of 150 students from business families coming in over here, only 10% of them were females. But I don't think I saw a capability issue at all in any one of them. The challenge, I think, is in families that you need to go and communicate that, hey, look, I'm interested in joining the business. I'm interested in, being a part of the business. I would also, to a certain extent, and I'm putting my foot out over here, so I'm mindful of that. I think the women also take a back foot at times by not being, should I say, assertive or aggressive enough in communicating that, hey, you know what, I'm interested in joining the business. I've talked to patriarchs, and I've been actually the mediator also between a daughter and a father in terms of a business, that why should I not be a part of that? And the father said, how do I know she's serious? How do I know that she will not leave the business and go in case when she gets married? And I think let's understand, women come with a lot of handicaps. They have to take care of the family, they have to take care of the children, they have to take care of the entire structure, which I would say men folk don't have to, as a result of which they're fighting a glass wall and a ceiling that they have to cross. So if you can give evidence, I would say, of the fact of your seriousness, then I think you will compel your families to be more looking at you much more in a different light. What I also encourage my students is that in case if you're not able to make headway in your family business, it may make sense to go outside and prove your worth. So if you are in an independent environment where you're not being judged, you're not being evaluated, and you can prove your worth, then what happens is, depending on the family structure, this depends a lot on whether it's a joint family, nuclear family, uncles, aunties, it becomes, each one is a different family, so you need to treat it differently. But you can look at that, then it becomes a convincing argument that, hey, you've succeeded, you can do the same in family businesses. I can tell you, I give the same advice to sons also who don't get acceptance into family businesses.
Yeah.
So, in terms of prove yourself out. So the capability building and capability proving is something which is quite, gender neutral as such. So, yeah.
Sure. And on that point, I heard both of you at times mention that father deciding, right, succession and all. But what role, and Gautami, maybe this question for you, right? There are every family, if there's a next gen daughter, there is a mother, there are other people, there's a sister-in-law, there's a daughter, there's a sibling. Do you think women collaborate and sort of support each other within the family when it comes to this, or they're sort of at times pulling each other down because that gen didn't get it, so they sort of feel that the next gen doesn't deserve it as well?
So the first point here will be that, do men discuss it with their spouses? Because if a father is taking a call, is he asking his wife, what do you think? Yes and no. There are situations, and it's very family specific, very business specific, and it stems on from the fact that, is the family thinking that women should be allowed entry in the business? It's not about a mother not wanting to give her daughter equal opportunity, but if the family for last 2 generations or 3 generations have adopted a policy, then it is very difficult to break it. Okay, that's what our experience has been. It's not like, so there are discussions done at family meetings where, how do we handle this situation, especially if the 3rd generation is now coming into the businesses. The family wants to give equal opportunity to the daughters, because there are situations where a particular, so if the 2nd generation, one family only has daughters and the other family has son and daughter, how can you say that I will have nothing to be given to the family which has only 2 daughters, and a second family which has a daughter and a son, and again only that son will be running the businesses? So it's growing, and it's kind of increasingly people are becoming aware that they need to kind of have their daughters involved in the businesses. Daughters are asserting, as we spoke, it's no longer the situation that they're accepting the position that we'll just get married and go into another family. So both situations are changing. I think the senior generation or the elder generation is kind of expressing that there should be an involvement. The younger generation is asserting that they want to be involved, and thus you see a change happening, while it's not necessarily all-encompassing, and there are still a lot of places where you could see a lot of more changes to be done.
Rajiv, you want to add to that? Sorry.
Yes, if I may. I think my experience is a little bit different. The women play a very important role as the CEO spouse, if you want to call it, as a patriarch's wife. And I think depending on the family and the structure, you see a lot of influence being asserted by the patriarch's wife. By de facto, she is the first lady in the family, and therefore she gets power from the position itself, and then how she exercises it through the patriarch or directly is something which you can't ignore. I'd like to raise a point over here about the fact that what we need to realize is the role of the spouse. And I've seen this in cases, I've been experiencing this multiple times, that what happens is men go and talk to their spouses, nothing wrong with that, but, let me give an example of, if I can have 2 minutes to give. So, imagine a situation where two sons and a father, the son and the father get together and, have a fight in the business over here with the younger son, let's call it. And the youngest, they have a huge heated argument, and then they go back home, and then the younger son goes and talks to his wife and says, look, I had an argument, and my father said this, my brother said this, don't support me, and all that. They have a huge discussion. And the seeds which are stemmed, which are sowed in the wife's mind, is that my brother-in-law and my father-in-law are against my husband. Next day morning, they go to office, and then suppose the father and the son come back and say, hey, brother, I'm very sorry we did this to you. We shouldn't have happened. Let's patch it up and make it up. Okay. And everything is normal. Now what happens is that part may not be communicated to the wife. So now the wife is under the impression that my elder brother-in-law and my father-in-law are against my husband, and therefore that stems up with what we call as disputes in the family. Now, if you're involving the wife, then I think we need to play a more active role for the lady in the family to be sharing and being transparent with what exactly is happening, number one. Number two, about the roles that each one is playing. When I'm coming into families for this thing, and I talk to the spouses, and I do speak to the spouses when we are talking about a particular, advising consultant assignment or something, and I'm amazed at the role that they think their husbands are playing in the business. And I think so there is a lot of clarity and which needs to come in, and we need to have some kind of truthfulness, and in the family, and what roles each one is playing. And I think that will help the daughter-in-law to understand that how do I get families, or what role my husbands are playing. So, yeah.
Last question before I open this up to Q&A is, one of the reasons I have often heard that, the family is being nicer to daughters because they think doing business in India is difficult, and they think we'll rather leave cash or finance or funds which wealth managers would manage, and, they wouldn't have to deal with the nuances of Indian business. And that's the justification. No, they're not challenging capability or whatever. But do you think that it's no longer as difficult to do business in India, etc.? Do you think that change will also bring this change automatically?
So, if that's the reason given, then the other question will be that if the businesses do really well, will you carve out a share for the daughters? Because you've kind of settled her today with, 100 crores, assume, and the business is now doing 500 crores. Will you give the daughter more assets? Have you made provisions for that legally to happen? And thus, I think the answer is, if you're giving them equal beneficial ownerships.
Yeah, just a little de-risked. Maybe I'm just saying that the family in their mindset is saying, I'm de-risking my daughter, tension nahi hoga, wealth, she'll manage, she'll find someone to manage. My son will fight it out.
Given that we are getting them married into good business families. Yeah. And if they are doing very well, they are going to get from their husbands' families. So why should they be dependent on the parents' business where the son is the only entitled to, sure. His pot is only this. He's not going to get from some other pot. So see, I don't think
they're very subjective.
They're very subjective. They're very specific answers. I think I have come across multiple clients where different calls have been taken where daughters or daughter-in-laws come into play. I don't think we will be able to sit in judgment whether they are doing the right thing or the wrong thing. There could be because of the family values which have emanated for the last 3, 4, 8, 10 generations. Can we as advisors sit in judgment that it's wrong? Probably the answer is no. But it's extremely subjective. It's client specific. It is changing is what I can definitely say. But is it changing to the extent that it needs to change? Probably the answer is no yet.
Okay, as a father, I think of two daughters, I have a very different point of view. I think kids should get equal distribution is what I feel. But then I think most families think and feel differently. We must understand one thing, and I think this is something which all disputes in families, and I've seen in wealth allocation, and I think I've come in over there and talked to people, and I think our concept of you must understand something, and I'm repeating it again. Fair is not equal. You can be fair, or you can be equal. You cannot be both. So you need to understand this. And once this concept is understood, that fairness is not equality. If you give equal, the point is somebody may have more capabilities and more earning power, as a result of which it's not fair. And therefore you need to understand that I think every parent's role is to see their kids happy. As a father, I advise most people is let's help them become independent, let them flourish, let their skills and abilities come out in the best field that they are most equipped for. Let us not force anything down on them. I think more importantly, we should not force businesses onto the next gen if their interests lie somewhere else. So I mean, get a professional CEO or hive them off or do something. And I think that's a discussion which families need to have, that what role will the next generation play in family businesses, and based on that have a discussion about what should be the wealth transfer. Yes, we should give them cash, otherwise the entire industry will not flourish. So I'm vouching for that, and I'm also vouching for the fact as a patriot that okay, India is a great place to do business. But I think it also depends on what the interests of the individuals are, and I think that needs to be considered before any decision is to be made. And I think the best way out is to sit them down and say, okay, hey, what do you want? How do we do this? And work out a best way forward.
I think that's, if I may add a few points, I think that's a very interesting point, and that's what gets discussed when people are discussing some exit mechanisms as well. So if a daughter of the family is given a right in the business, and the daughter and the son have the rights to exit, and there is an exit policy, exit mechanism put down in the family business charter, or trust deeds or shareholders agreement, whatever you want to call it, that is, again, is it okay to say that it's equal opportunity given, but an ability to exit? It's also probably fair because I've given the daughter a right in the business. Now the question is, do I still protect her by giving liquidity? That question should be asked generically by family patriarchs. That do I need to have a safety pot, a cash flow apart from my businesses? And it's not for the wealth managers to be happy. It's about the relevance of that safety pot or that cash flows. And one has seen that happen in the COVID times. The cash flows are also important. We had a client who was having around 1,000 crores worth of equity valuation sitting in a company. The company was to get money out of the company, it's only dividends or buyback. So we asked a simple question: if you want to get your daughter married, 25 crores is required, or whatever, 10 crores is required, where is the money going to come from? Okay, so some of these hard discussions have to be done with families, have to think on these lines, and a cash flow management to maintain the family lifestyle and standard of living and taking care of the son and the daughter equally should be thought through. And share in the business to both the son and the daughter should also be thought through. Exit should be thought through. So at least at the end of the day, you've given them an opportunity to think on these lines. And that way you probably will be fair, and probably non-discriminatory.
Yeah, so we'll maybe conclude with, fair is not equal as the key sort of takeaway here. I think that sort of underlines a lot of things that were discussed. We could continue, but open to Q&A if you have any questions for Gautami or Rajiv. This is the time, maybe you can ask them or. All right, we'll then try to stick to time and continue with the session right after this. I would urge not to take a break right now, and we'll straight away break for lunch. Thank you, Rajiv and Gautami.
Thank you.
One second, Gautami, sorry.
So once again, a big round of applause for the speakers, everyone.
Mujhe? Thank you.
Once again, a big round of applause.
I'll continue.